Story number 1. Title: The Last Passenger, Echoes of Bus 13. I remember the whispers that started it all, a string of chilling stories clawing their way into the local lore of our sleepy suburb. It was the summer of 2001 when the unsettling rumors about Bus 13 began to circulate, seeping into the bones of our community. I was 25 then, a fledgling journalist with a penchant for the macabre, eager to sink my teeth into a story that could make my career. The tale went that on the last run of Bus 13, just as the witching hour approached, there was always one passenger who never got off. Descriptions varied, but the consistency lay in the fear that passenger evoked: a young woman, her eyes hollow pits that spoke of unspeakable horrors, her presence sending shivers down the spines of those who noticed her. She was known as the last passenger. My investigation began at the local bus depot, where I interviewed a driver named Hank, a stout man whose usual stoicism faltered when I mentioned her. "She gets on at the last stop before we hit the outskirts," he told me, his voice a notch too high. "I see her in the rear view, just staring ahead. When I reach the end of the line, she's gone. Vanished. But the chill lingers." The camera lens captured every twitch and pallor of his skin as he recounted his experience. Passenger testimonials painted a macabre picture. A college student named Lily, her eyes wide and earnest, described how she'd watched the woman in a tattered dress whisper to an empty seat, her voice a rasping lullaby that seemed to speak of loss and longing. Another passenger, a night shift nurse named Jared, admitted to hearing guttural chants under her breath that made his blood run cold, a language he couldn't recognize but felt in his very soul. The lore of Bus 13 was more than just hauntings. There were whispers of devil worship in the woods where the bus route ended, sightings of shadowy figures performing unspeakable rituals in the dead of night. The older folks spoke of a tragedy from decades past, an exorcism that had gone horrifically wrong, resulting in the deaths of those involved, clergy and possessed alike. It was said their spirits were tethered to the place, restlessly roaming, thirsty for life they had been robbed of. My own visit to the site was under the cloak of darkness. I was walking, the gravel beneath my feet crunching, the dim glow of my flashlight my only guide. The remains of an old chapel stood there, its walls defiled with symbols that made an involuntary shudder course through me. It was here, with my camera rolling, that the air turned frigid, and the wind carried the softest echo of a scream, a sound so pained that it rooted me to the spot. The documentary took a harrowing turn when I pieced together the history. The last passenger, it turned out, was once named Abigail, a young woman caught in the throes of a supposed demonic possession in 1971, exactly 30 years prior to the hauntings. Her exorcism was held on the very ground the bus route ended, an exorcism that claimed her life in a most violent spectacle witnessed by a congregation now long gone. But it was the library's archived newspaper that gave me the final piece of the jigsaw. Abigail had been a nurse, just like Jared. She had cared for a little girl named Lily, like the college student. Their names recurring was no mere coincidence, it was as if the souls of the past were reaching out through the living, a pattern repeating through the ages. The climax of the documentary came with a revelation. During the late-night shoot, I became the story. As I was driving my car, following the bus to its last stop, I heard it, the blood-curdling scream from within the bus. Swerving to a halt, I ran on board, camera forgotten, only to find the bus empty, save for the driver slumped over the wheel, lifeless. His heart had given out, they said later. But the cold dread that enveloped me spoke of truths far beyond natural. The last passenger was never aired. The footage was too disturbing, the events too real to be dismissed as mere urban legend. But sometimes, late at night, I find myself driving past the old chapel, the hairs on my neck standing at attention. And I wonder if Abigail, and all the souls tied to her tragic end, are still searching for a way to leave Bus 13. Forever echoing their despair through the spectral veil. To this day, the locals avoid the last bus. But the screams that pierced that night linger in my dreams, a haunting melody that refuses to be forgotten. And I know, deep in my bones, that the horror on wheels is far from over. It waits, it watches, and it hungers in the silent darkness of Bus 13. Story number 2. Title: Route to Nowhere, Midnight's Phantom Journey. It was a series of coincidences, or so I thought at the time, that led me to the enigma that is Route 13, a bus line that supposedly didn't exist by day, but by the stroke of midnight, materialized as if woven from the very fabric of the night. My name's Alex, and I was a curious grad student in 2002, with a healthy obsession for the unexplained and the unexplored. The suburb where I lived was as mundane as it gets, but there's always a layer beneath the mundane, a shadow of something else. That year, the shadow was Route 13. I began to collect stories. It started with an offhand comment from a friend, Casey, who drove cabs by night. "You ever see that old bus on Maple Street after hours?" he'd asked. "The one that ain't on any schedule?" His eyes held a spark of unease when he spoke about it. That was the first thread. As I delved deeper, I found others, like Mike, a bartender, who claimed he saw the same bus every night on his way home, always at 12:06 a.m., always half full, but never stopping for him. Then there was Jenna, a night shift nurse, who swore she once boarded it on a particularly weary night and couldn't remember anything after, only that she woke up at her stop with no recollection of the ride. The pseudo-investigation became my obsession. I was driving the streets at night, charting out possible routes, mapping sightings that peppered in from online forums and anonymous emails. My wall was plastered with pins and strings, a web of supposed stops for Route 13, a bus that, according to city records, didn't exist. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source, Tara, a local college student, an avid vlogger, who'd captured a grainy video of the bus as it paused at an old, decrepit stop. The footage was shaky, but the bus was there, clear as a bell tolling for midnight, its destination sign blinking Route to Nowhere. That's when things took a turn towards the abyss. I was walking, camera in hand, trying to trace the path recorded in Tara's video. I reached the old bus stop as the clock signaled the arrival of another day's demise. And there it was, the phantom bus, its windows fogged, the silhouette of passengers just visible. I stepped on, the doors hissing shut behind me like a whispered secret. The driver, a faceless entity obscured by shadows, simply nodded. I took a seat, my heart pounding a frenetic rhythm. The other passengers were quiet, too quiet, their faces turned away, as if looking at them directly might unveil a truth I wasn't ready for. The bus lurched forward, and we were swallowed by the night. I don't know how long we drove, time seemed a concept too frail for this journey. I do remember the cold, though, a chill that clung to my bones, an icy caress that spoke of long-forgotten tales and restless spirits. I approached the driver, my voice barely a whisper. "Where are we going?" "To the end," was all he said. Suddenly, the bus stopped, the door opened, and I found myself facing the old chapel, the site of countless whispered horror stories, the epicenter of devil worship rumors that had stained the suburb's history. There were no signs of life, just the remnants of candle wax and symbols that made my skin crawl. I turned back to question the driver, but the bus was gone, vanished into the night as if it had never been. The next thing I knew, I was walking home in the pre-dawn light, my mind racing. My camera was gone, but the memory card remained in my pocket, inexplicably. I uploaded the footage, a disjointed array of clips that showed the bus, the passengers, the chapel, but offered no explanation, no answers, only deepened the mystery. The video ended on a cliffhanger, the chapel door creeping open to reveal an inky darkness that seemed to beckon me in. But that's where the footage cut off, an abrupt end that left my viewers clamoring for more, just as confused and hungry for answers as I was. To this day, I cannot explain the route to nowhere, but I can feel it, the pull of that journey, the call of the unknown passengers and their silent stories. Somewhere, out there in the midnight hour, Bus 13 still roams, its destination always just out of reach. And perhaps, one night, I'll board it again, in search of the truth, to finally unveil the unspeakable horrors that lie at the end of Route 13. Until then, the investigation remains open, a tantalizing enigma that haunts my every step, always beckoning for a return, for updates, for an ending that perhaps some things are never meant to have. Story number 3. Title: The Driver Who Drove to Hell, Chronicles of Bus 13. The screen flickers to life, the play button morphing into a pause as the first frames of our documentary seize the screen. The title fades, and the eerie image of a desolate bus stop emerges, the soundscape a symphony of distant howls and the ominous ticking of a clock nearing midnight. I was a local podcaster back in 2003, named Ethan, with a love for the night and stories that made your skin crawl. My work led me down roads less traveled, but none so dark as the one paved by Bus 13 and its hero driver, John Kramer. John was a regular guy, early 30s, with a quiet life and a steady job driving the night shift for the suburbs bus service. Or so it seemed until he began picking up passengers who were anything but regular. It started one chilling October night. John recalled the evening with a clarity that belied the years past, his voice a steady monotone that belied the fear that flickered in his eyes. I was checking my rear view, just routine, and there was this guy, standing by the curb. The documentary cuts to a reenactment, a lone figure standing in the pooling glow of a streetlight, his face obscured by shadow. John continued, "He wasn't there a second before. I swear it." The figure boarded the bus, silent as a grave, his fare paid in old, tarnished coins that clinked eerily in the fare box. As the nights wore on, more of these silent figures appeared, each more unsettling than the last. A young girl, her eyes vacant, whispering nursery rhymes that turned sinister in the hush of the bus. An old man, clutching a Bible, his lips moving in fervent, silent prayer. A woman in a tattered wedding dress, her sobs a quiet soundtrack to the nightmares that surely plagued her. With each new figure, the atmosphere grew thicker, the world outside the bus windows warping into something unrecognizable, the roads unfamiliar and winding. John's story took a sinister twist when he spoke of the night they all fell silent, their eyes turning to him in unison. That's when I heard it, John's voice cracked, the scream. It was coming from everywhere and nowhere, a cry that wasn't human. The sound design swells, a crescendo of screams and discordant notes, as the visuals twist into a representation of hellish torment, the bus interior now a corridor of impossible geometries and shadows that danced with malice. An investigation into the history of Bus 13 unearthed a litany of unexplained incidents, passengers who boarded but never alighted, a driver found catatonic, whispering of the road to perdition, and tales of occult practices in the woodlands the bus skirted. The dark heart of the documentary pulsed with the recounting of the night John stopped at the fabled crossroads, a place where urban legend claimed you could strike a deal with the devil himself. It was there that John realized he hadn't been driving his regular route for weeks. He was traversing a loop, a cycle of damnation, ferrying souls through the night, his passengers the damned, his bus a vessel condemned. The climax of the film, John's last recorded words, plays over visuals of the bus disappearing into a fog so dense it seemed to swallow light itself. "I can't stop driving," he whispered, the camera's night vision painting his eyes a demonic glow. "If I stop, I'll have to take a seat. And I know, once I sit down, I'm not getting up again." The documentary ends on a cliffhanger, the image of the crossroads empty now, the sounds of Bus 13's engine fading into the distance. The credits roll, but the screen lingers on a final, chilling visual, a GPS map blinking with a new dot labeled Bus 13, its path erratic, leading off the map, into the unknown. The video's comment section buzzes with theories and debate, the viewers unable to turn away, their screens now windows to a mystery that beckons with a spectral hand, promising more, promising an end to the tale of John Kramer, the driver who drove to hell. Story number 4. Title: Ghost Bus of Harrow's End, The Lost Footage Chronicles. As the eerie intro music fades, the title Ghost Bus of Harrow's End appears on the screen, followed by grainy found footage style clips showing glimpses of a bus, decrepit and spectral, moving through the fog-shrouded streets of a suburban American town. The viewers are immediately pulled into the mystery. I'm Alex, and in 2004, I was an amateur filmmaker with an obsession for the paranormal. Harrow's End was notorious for its urban legends, but none as chilling as the ghost bus, rumored to appear on the anniversary of a tragedy long past. The documentary transitions to my first-person narrative, recounting the events that led to the uncovering of a sinister history. I was researching for a film, I recall, when I stumbled upon a local news clipping from the 80s about a bus that crashed, claiming the lives of all aboard. A series of interviews with self-proclaimed paranormal experts and local historians unfolds, detailing the legend. They speak of Bus 13, which was said to have vanished into thin air one stormy night, only to reappear each year, haunting the roads, a phantom vessel screaming with the souls of the lost. My investigation led me to Rachel and Tyler, two young locals who had experienced the phenomenon firsthand. We were driving home one night, Rachel's voice trembles on the audio recording, and there it was, the bus. It looked so real. The viewers are then shown the found footage Rachel managed to capture on her phone. The bus's headlights pierce through the darkness, its form a ghostly silhouette against the night. The clip is shaky, the image blurs as Rachel's voice peaks in a terrified scream before the footage cuts out. The heart of the documentary unfolds as we organize a visit to the haunted site on the fateful night. Armed with cameras and a ragtag team of ghost hunters, including a medium named Sophia and a tech-savvy investigator named Mike, we set out to unravel the mystery. The footage is suspenseful, the night vision casting an otherworldly glow on everything. Sophia begins to communicate, her voice echoing in the silence, "Spirits of Bus 13, we seek your story." A chilling wind sweeps through the scene, and the equipment starts to malfunction. The ghost hunting session intensifies as Mike's voice cuts through the static. "There's something here with us." The readings are off the charts. The climax of the story is a heart-pounding sequence of events. A loud, blood-curdling scream is heard, the cameras spin wildly, and for a moment, the apparition of the bus is there, transparent and haunting, before it dissipates into the ether. In the aftermath, the experts piece together a tale of a bus that met its end through a series of unfortunate events that some whisper was the result of a pact with the devil himself. They speak of a driver who delved too deeply into the occult, of passengers who were never meant to take that last ride. The documentary concludes with my narration, a solemn note in my voice. "It happened to us. We saw the ghost bus of Harrow's End." The screen fades to black, the viewers left with the chilling realization that some legends have roots in realities too terrifying to comprehend. The video ends on a call to action, a promise of more unearthed footage and updates, ensuring the viewers return, their appetite for the macabre whetted by the unsolved enigma of the ghost bus, a legend that will drive through the annals of Harrow's End forevermore. Story number 5. Title: The 24-Hour Haunting, live from Bus 13. The screen flickers to life, and the words 24-hour live stream, haunted bus challenge scroll across the darkness. A chilling whisper of white noise fills the audio before my voice cuts in. This isn't just another ghost story, this is my real-life encounter with the horrors of Bus 13. I'm Logan, and in 2005, I was part of a team that sought to unravel the myths surrounding the infamous Bus 13, reputedly a nexus of supernatural occurrences in the heart of a quiet American suburb. Our ambition was to broadcast a 24-hour live stream from inside the haunted vehicle, engaging with an audience thirsty for otherworldly phenomena. The night before the live stream, we set the stage with interviews from those who had experienced the unexplained. Jenna, a local journalist, shared her account on camera, her eyes wide. "I was writing about urban legends, and I thought Bus 13 was just a story, until I heard the screams." On the day of the event, the camera introduces the team, myself, Jenna, a skeptical engineer named Ethan, and Mia, a medium with a soft voice that belied her steely resolve. We set up our equipment inside the hollow shell of Bus 13, stationed permanently as a chilling monument at the old bus depot. As dusk falls, we go live. The chat floods with curious and macabre predictions. Will you last the night? One user asks. The last group didn't, taunts another. I recall walking through the aisle, narrating to the camera, it happened on a night much like this. The dim lights flicker, and Mia suddenly stiffens, whispering, they're here with us. Hours tick by, and the audience engagement spikes as cold spots and strange sounds are encountered, recorded live. Ethan, ever the skeptic, sets up scientific explanations, but his voice falters when the temperature gauge drops inexplicably. At midnight, the tension peaks. Mia starts an EVP session, and a cacophony of whispers fills the live stream. The viewership skyrockets as people type frenzied reactions. Did you hear that? Someone types as a ghostly wail resonates through the bus. Around 3 a.m., the witching hour, the cameras catch shadowy figures flitting past the windows. Jenna gasps, her previous skepticism drowned by fear. I was wrong, she stammers, this is real. The live comments become a blur of worry and excitement. Stay safe, many urge. Keep filming, others demand. As dawn approaches, a climax of otherworldly screams pierces the silence, and the camera feed scrambles into static. When the image clears, Ethan is gone. We search in a panic, the live audience our witness. Outside the bus, we find Ethan, unconscious, with no memory of how he got there. As he comes to, he whispers of voices that called him out into the dark. The stream concludes, not with the end of the haunting, but with the beginning of a deeper investigation. This was more than just an urban legend. I narrate as the sun rises, and our experience on Bus 13 was a journey to the edge of understanding. We promise to delve further into the mystery, the stream ending on a shot of Bus 13 in the morning light, a silent sentinel to the night's terrors. The chat lingers with those demanding more, ensuring that the audience will return, eager for the next chilling installment of the haunted saga of Bus 13. Story number 6. Title: Unsolved Mysteries, The Vanishing Bus. The eerie opening shot sweeps over a deserted highway on the outskirts of a small American suburb, the twilight casting long shadows over the pavement. The voiceover, my own, begins with a heavy note of unease. What you're about to see is the true story of Bus 13, a journey that began like any other but ended in a mystery that defies explanation. My name is Carter, and in 2006, I was a budding filmmaker with an interest in the paranormal. What I stumbled upon turned my world upside down. This documentary is my attempt to piece together the events surrounding the disappearance of Bus 13. The video cuts to me. I was driving past the old Millersville route when I first heard the local legend of the vanishing bus. I recount. The legend spoke of a bus that set out on its evening route but never reached its destination. The scene transitions to interviews with the townspeople. Each face that appears on the screen, whether it's the worried local librarian, Madeline, or the stoic police chief, Harris, adds a layer to the tale. They were all just gone, Harris says, the weight of the unresolved case etched into his furrowed brow. Next, we delve into the personal accounts. A home video shows a young man named Tyler, full of excitement, boarding Bus 13. His girlfriend, Zoe, narrates off-camera with a trembling voice, I was waiting for a call that night. It never came. The screen fades on her tear-streaked face as she holds up a still unanswered text message. The documentary then shifts to the night of the disappearance. Reenactments, based on eyewitness accounts, show the bus rounding a corner and then, nothing. As if it, along with its passengers, had slipped into thin air. Graphics and maps illustrate the investigation that ensued, including the search patterns and the radius that expanded daily. Theories abound, from wormholes and time slips to more sinister notions of abductions and cult activity. An unnerving segment presents the findings of a paranormal investigator, Alicia, who believed the bus crossed into a demonic realm. I was standing where the bus was last seen, Alicia recounts, her eyes scanning the desolate stop. In the air, it was charged, heavy, like the calm before a storm. In a chilling climax, the documentary reveals that just before the disappearance, there had been a surge of exorcism deaths and devil worship in the community. A forbidden ritual, incomplete and left wanting, could have created a vortex, the investigators suggest, a theory that casts a shadow over the suburb's dark past. The final moments show me walking the empty bus route, speaking to the camera. It happened on a road much like this, I say, where the line between our world and the next was crossed. The screen cuts to black, with the words, "What do you think happened to Bus 13?" prompting the audience to share their own theories. The comment section becomes a digital seance, as viewers from around the globe contribute their voices to the unsolved case, hoping for answers, or perhaps, fearing them. As the credits roll, a call to action remains, a plea for any information that might shed light on the blood-curdling screams of Bus 13, the vanishing vehicle that became a legend. Story number 7. Title: Horror Stories from Bus Drivers, The Haunting of Route 13. The screen flickers to life with the ominous flicker of a bus's headlights cutting through the fog. The title emerges, Horror Stories from Bus Drivers. My voice breaks the silence, deep and somber. Every driver has a route they never forget. For those who've driven Bus 13, that route is etched in nightmare. In 2007, I was a young documentary filmmaker named Alex, intrigued by tales of the macabre. My journey led me to a quiet suburb in the United States where the whispers of Bus 13 had become the stuff of legend. The video cuts to a series of interviews with bus drivers, their eyes betraying the memories they're about to share. A grizzled veteran named Mike leans into the frame. I was driving the late shift. It's a route no one else wanted. Now I know why, he says, a chill running through his words. Julia, a driver who's seen it all, recalls, the radio would turn to static, and then you'd hear screams over it, screams that couldn't come from a living throat. The reenactment shows a driver's hand turning the radio dial, only to be met with the shrill sounds of torment. We then meet Nathan, a rookie who never returned to driving after his encounter. I was checking the rearview mirror, and I saw her, this young girl, no more than 16, her eyes hollow. He shudders. She whispered he's coming just before she vanished. Dramatizations depict the harrowing tales, each story unraveled like a thread pulling us deeper into the dark tapestry of Bus 13. The visuals are interwoven with chilling animations that depict the encounters, designed to keep viewers' eyes glued to the screen. Amidst the stories, we explore the investigation that took place following the unexplained death of a driver found in his seat, hands still on the wheel, an expression of sheer horror frozen on his face. No cause of death was determined. A turning point in the documentary introduces Ava, a paranormal researcher, who shares, "I was walking the route, and I felt a presence." Bus 13 was a conduit for something otherworldly. Her expertise leads to a night vision exploration of the bus, revealing eerie anomalies and EVP recordings of spectral voices. The climax of the documentary centers around an exorcism on Bus 13 that ended in tragedy. The young priest, Father Joseph, who performed the rite, met an untimely death under mysterious circumstances. Footage shows the bus, isolated in the dark, as the exorcism is carried out, only to be interrupted by a violent, unseen force. In the final act, I narrate, I was sitting with the drivers as they recounted the events, each tale more harrowing than the last. The interviews conclude with a sense of unfinished business, a collective dread that the horrors of Bus 13 are far from over. The screen fades to black with an invitation for viewers to share their theories or experiences. The engagement spikes as comments pour in, a mix of skepticism and belief, fear and fascination. As the credits roll, a question lingers: what haunts Bus 13? The video ends on a call to action, urging the community to keep the cameras rolling, eyes watching, and to always beware the last bus of the night. Story number 8. Title: Survivor Stories, The Haunted Bus Trip of Suburbia. The ominous tone is set as the video opens with the flickering image of an empty bus moving in the dead of night. My voice, laden with a mixture of fear and intrigue, narrates over the haunting visuals. They say the roads we travel are just paths, but some paths have dark passengers. I introduce myself as Casey, a filmmaker drawn to the shadows cast by the ordinary. In 2008, I ventured into a suburban town where the legend of Bus 13 had grown wild in the whispers of locals. The documentary shifts to interviews with survivors, their names anonymized for their safety. I was coming home from work, starts one interviewee, when I felt a cold hand grip mine. There was no one next to me. Each interview is a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, with dramatizations breathing life into their words. High-quality reenactments show a young man, Tyler, suddenly engulfed in shadow as he sits alone on the bus. Another, Emma, describes her reflection in the window twisting into a grotesque visage that wasn't her own. The investigation deepens as I uncover records of a group of high school friends who took Bus 13 as a dare, only to vanish without a trace. Their story is chillingly brought to life, showing the group laughing and joking, unaware of the lurking dread. The bus envelopes them in darkness, the screen cuts to black, and their screams echo, a stark end to the reenactment. The focus then shifts to Zach, a young, skeptical journalist who boarded Bus 13, documenting his journey. The found footage-style video shows his growing unease, culminating in a spine-chilling moment when a ghostly figure appears in the seat behind him, causing him to flee in terror. I was reviewing the footage, I explain, when I noticed symbols etched into the seats, signs of devil worship. The visuals show the eerie markings, suggesting a sinister past intertwined with the bus's very frame. Local historian Lily details a forgotten tragedy. In the early 1900s, this was a route for funeral processions. Some say the mourners who rode Bus 13 never left. The reenactment is poignant, with translucent figures superimposed over the modern-day bus seats. The climax reveals a recent exorcism attempt on Bus 13, where a young exorcist, Father Ryan, met his end. His last words, captured in an audio recording, resound with terror, "They are all here, and they are angry." The dramatization shows the bus consumed by supernatural forces, the windows shattering as Father Ryan's voice is cut short. In the denouement, survivors gather, recounting the terror they faced. "I was walking away from that bus," says Tyler, "and I felt something watching me, still do." The documentary concludes with their shared glance back at the now silent Bus 13. As the video ends, a call to action invites the audience to share any information on the missing high schoolers, keeping the community's eyes and ears open. The credits roll, but the story feels far from over. The haunting refrain of the interviewees lingers: "Once you ride Bus 13, you're never truly alone again." Story number 9. Title: The Secret of the Abandoned Bus Terminal, Route to Dread. The screen flickers to life, revealing the decrepit facade of what once was the bustling Greenfield bus terminal. My voice, tinged with a grave curiosity, sets the scene. They say some places are left abandoned for a reason. In 2009, I discovered why Greenfield Terminal was one of them. The documentary begins with a montage of old photographs and news clippings, showcasing the terminal in its heyday before it spiraled into a haunting shell. My role as the narrator and investigator, Alex, unravels the story through a series of personal experiences and chilling encounters. "I was walking along the old tracks," recounts one of the former workers, Jack, a gruff man whose eyes belie the trauma he faced. "The air turned cold, and that's when I heard the screams, like they were right next to me." Dramatic reenactments capture the eerie stillness of the terminal, punctuated by the sudden, heart-stopping screams Jack describes. The camera work is shaky, raw, heightening the sense of being there, in the midst of the inexplicable horror. As the investigation delves deeper, I interview Jenna, a young urban explorer. "I was driving to the terminal with friends for a dare," she says, the tremor in her voice palpable. "We never expected to find that altar." The mockumentary's visuals grow darker, showing the group stumbling upon a sinister sight of devil worship amidst the rubble. The story of a local ghost hunter, Ryan, adds a layer of dread. I was setting up cameras when I saw it, a shadow moving against the light. The footage, grainy and distorted, captures a glimpse of something inhuman lurking in the terminal. The mockumentary takes a turn when a diary is discovered, belonging to a missing girl, Sarah, who was obsessed with Bus 13 legends. Her writings reveal a descent into madness, convinced she was communicating with the spirits of the terminal. It happened to me, I narrate, finding her last entry, a plea for help that would never come. The tension peaks as we recreate the night Sarah ventured alone into the terminal. The camera follows her jittery journey until she boards a phantom Bus 13, which appears from the mist. The bus doors close, and she's never seen again. Through interviews with a terrified local priest and paranormal experts, the mockumentary speculates on the dark energies that may have originated from a tragedy long buried beneath the terminal's foundation. As the film nears its end, the team and I hold a night vigil, cameras rolling. Strange lights flicker, unexplained shadows dart across the walls, and distant wails disturb the silence. A sudden surge of energy sends the equipment haywire, the screen goes black. When the picture returns, it's to my face, pale and drawn. What we found at Greenfield Bus Terminal is a reminder, I say, that some horrors are too deep to ever be fully uncovered. The mockumentary ends with an invitation for viewers to share their theories and experiences, ensuring the haunting legacy of Bus 13 and the abandoned terminal lives on. The screen fades to black, and only the whispers of the forgotten linger, inviting the audience to ponder what secrets lie in the heart of the abandoned Greenfield Bus Terminal. Story number 10. Title: Cursed Bus Lines, Episode 1, The Ghosts of Eldridge Street. The screen slowly fades in from black, revealing a hazy, dim-lit street lined with Victorian-style homes and old trees that almost block out the night sky. The echoing hum of an approaching bus can be heard, setting the scene of Eldridge Street, Michigan. As a child, I was always told never to take the night bus on Eldridge Street. I began reminiscing. But in 2010, curiosity got the better of me. As the narrator and investigator, my name is Luke, and I'm on a journey to uncover the disturbing tales behind cursed bus lines from around the world. Eldridge Street had always been a source of fascination. Local historian, Amy, gives viewers some background. There have been tales, she says, of Bus 77 which supposedly vanished one foggy night and is said to return, filled with the lost souls of its passengers. During one chilling night, I decide to take the bus. I was walking to the bus stop when I felt a sudden chill, I narrate. But dramatic recreation shows me, hesitant, looking around at the seemingly empty street. Boarding Bus 77, I encounter eerie passengers. There's a man in a World War II uniform, a woman in a 1920s flapper dress, and a young boy with a vintage baseball glove, all with hollow, distant eyes. Each passenger seems trapped in their era, says a psychic expert, Clara, as if the bus has been picking up these souls across different timelines. When the bus reaches its final destination, everyone vanishes, leaving me rattled and alone. The driver, an old woman with milky white eyes, ominously warns, sometimes the past rides with you. I interview other brave souls who've taken the journey. Emily, a college student, shares, I was driving back from a party when my car broke down. I took the bus and met a kind man from the 70s. He gave me a pendant which I later found out belonged to a missing person from that era. A priest, Father Robert, recalls an exorcism linked to the bus line. A young girl possessed, kept murmuring about Bus 77. During the exorcism, she levitated, and we heard the distinct sound of a bus horn. The episode climaxes with a nighttime investigation. With cameras rolling, unexplained shadows, chilling EVPs, and a brief appearance of the ghostly bus are captured. As dawn approaches, I reflect, Eldridge Street has more secrets than we'll ever uncover. But our journey is just beginning. Teasing the next episode, the screen displays clips of a haunting bus station in Spain. The episode title fades in, Cursed Bus Lines, Episode 2, The Whispering Station of Seville. The screen fades to black, encouraging viewers to tune in next time, as the horrors of cursed bus lines continue to unravel across the globe.